Good morning and welcome to the Monday Motivation here on Step by Step Listening's business page, but also on YouTube channel. Please do leave your comments when you join me. And if you haven't already done so, please follow the page or subscribe to YouTube. We'd love to hear from you again in the future. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Cheryl Andrews. I'm the founder of Step by Step Listening, also known as the Listening Detective. And over the last years, I've spent 30 years listening to people to find out what it is that it takes for them to do motivated action, to take motivated action. And so I spend my entire time now supporting, motivating, and inspiring people to do more of what they love and learn to love what they have to do. And today I want to talk to you about the second principle of the motivated action, which I'm talking about in my second book, Do Delegate or Ditch, making sense of why we say one thing, but we do another. So those of you that haven't heard of the principles before, these, after watching and modeling hundreds and hundreds of people, what I came to understand, there were certain mindsets, certain beliefs and certain thoughts that people had when they said this is what they wanted and they actually did it. And principle number 2 is all about the process. One of the major reasons why we don't do what we say we're going to do is we don't actually know what to do. We don't know what the next step is. So I want to talk to you about how coaching and listening and asking questions can help you to map out the process so you can get clarity of what it is that you need to do next. Because if you have clarity of what you want and you have confidence in yourself and the process, you will do it. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that, but also if you don't have clarity of the process, what you can do about it, because this is the attitude and the mindset of the people that I worked with over the last 30 years. And the good thing is that we can all learn this. It's all something that we can acquire as a skill set. So the first thing is, if you think about the thing that you want to have happen, whether you want to get your housework done, whether you want to get fit, whether you want to do more sales calls, whether you want to grow your business, it doesn't matter what it is. There's 2 points in the process. Ultimately, there is where you are now and there's where you want to be. So the first thing to do is get absolute clarity. If it was just the way you'd like it to be, it would be like what? And think about, what would you hear and see? What will be the evidence? What's the tangible things that you'll see that will tell you you've got it? So whether it's cleaning the house, maybe the kitchen sink will be sparkly clean, or the windowsill will be free of dust, or if your business is growing, maybe you have more money in the bank account, or you have more number of clients, whatever the thing is. But what would you actually hear and see? But also pay attention to your critic. Those of you know I do a lot of work with the inner voice. What would you be saying to yourself? What would you be inferring from that? So it's just thinking about the story that you'd be telling yourself. So it could be that when I've got these clients, this number of clients, I'm making this money, you might be saying that your sense of who you are is you're successful, or you're house proud, or whatever the success thing is. So it'll be just the way you'd like it to be. What would you hear and see? What do you infer from that? What's the story that you make up? What's the impact? How will that make you feel? So that's the end goal. And looking for the 4 questions really, it will be like what? What would you hear and see? What do you make up about that? What do you infer? And what's the impact? So that's at the end. Then take some time to think about what's happening right now. So what are you hearing and seeing that's telling you that you're not doing it? What is the story that you're making up about yourself as a result of that? And what's the impact? So just notice that's where you are now and where you want to be. And a question you can ask yourself then is, what happens in between? And just check in with yourself and find out if you know what the answer is between those two. And also just noticing if there's a story or any emotions come up, or what the impact of that question is on you. Now, if that question doesn't elicit a response, what you might try is, so when this is where you are right now, what happens next? Or what's the first thing that needs to happen? So depending on how your timelines work and how your timeframes work, you might find that you're better if you work for just after where you are now. I'm going to have to put my glasses back on. I took them off, guys, because I was aware that the screen reflects in my glasses and it might not be very easy for you to look at, but it's actually causing me to have a headache. So I'm going to put them back on. I hope you don't mind. And so if your timeline is that you're quite sort of in the moment, you might find that going for where you are now, what's the first thing that needs to happen, or then what happens? And maybe you do this on Post-it notes. You have a Post-it note of where you are now, and you go, and then what happens with another Post-it note, and you can start to map out the process. If your timeline's more of a reflector, you might find if you go to that imaginary place of where you'd like it to be, if it was just the way you'd like it to be, and you go, what happens just before that? And what happens just before that? So depending how your brain processes information, you might find different questions are easier for you to answer. And when I'm working with a client, I'm listening to get to calibrate for them what works and what doesn't work for them. So one of the things you can do is to actually map the process out from where you are now to where you want to be. And please feel free to put your comments below. I'm more than happy to ask some questions and support you throughout the week to sort of show you how coaching can help you to get this kind of clarity. So that's one way of doing it through the coaching process. Now, what I discovered is that people, if they were doing something that was new or doing something that was uncomfortable, then they would have to have confidence in their ability to do something new. So one of the things you can do is you can actually work out your process for confidence, or work out your process for learning something new. Because when you're learning at your best, for example, is one of the models I do with my clients, or when you're working at your best, if you understand what's the first thing that happens, what's the second thing, what's the third thing, and you know your process for that, no matter what you decide to do, you won't lose confidence because you'll know the first thing you have to do when you're learning something new. So, for example, if I'm going to learn something new, I have to know how what I'm learning, the time I'm investing in this, is going to apply in my life. I need to know the applications of it. So I'd have to write down all the places and all the, because that's the motivation. What am I going to do with this at the end of it? That's what motivates me. By having that as a process, it doesn't matter what I'm trying to learn or what I'm trying to tackle, I'll have confidence to do it. Now, here's the catch where people get stuck with the process, is if you have clarity of what you want and you have clarity of the process, often that means you'll give yourself feedback, which means your confidence will grow that everything will work, and you do something and take action. If you don't know how to do it, then you may well need to ask for help or delegate it. And if you are not very good at asking for help, then you may well get stuck. So you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do first. You don't know the order, but you also don't know how you do asking for help at your best or delegating your best. So there are things, again, that you could use this process and think of a time when you have asked for help and it's worked, or you have delegated and it's worked. Or even use your imagination to go, if I was asking for help at my best, it would be like what? And it might be that you want the help you need, you want someone to teach you. So it will be that thinking that if your teacher was at their best, that would be like what? Or if you were learning at your best. So the thing is, even if you don't know the thing that you've got to learn, you can become much more aware of your process in terms of what is involved to get you the knowledge or to get you the assistance and the help that you want to have happen. And after doing years and years of this, what I discovered is those people who either, if they got clarity of what they wanted, the people who did it straight away, there was basically two things that happened. Either they'd done it before, they just didn't realize that was what needed to happen. Once they got clarity, that was the thing that needed to happen. They would just do it. Or they were somebody who was quite happy to learn new things. So even if they hadn't done it before, if they had a process and a confidence in their own model for learning new things, they just get on and do it. And there was a third thing actually as well. More often than not, the people who were most proactive were the people who didn't need help. So they were more likely to be successful. 80% of the time it was because once they got clarity, they knew how to do it or what to do because they'd done it before, or they had confidence in themselves to do it. And it didn't involve any helping of others. As soon as it involved needing to learn something new or ask for help, that was when the success rate started to reduce. And so thinking about the people who were really, really successful and were proactive to take action, they had clarity of what they wanted. They had confidence in their ability to ask for help or delegate or to learn it from somebody else. So having a think about that. Now, what I do know is that as soon as we change the focus from I've just got to do this, we're very independent, to we're going to do this collaboratively, we have to change our focus because it's no longer dependent on us. It's now dependent on a partnership, and the process changes slightly. And so we have to learn to let go of certain things within that process. So another process that these people were most successful of is that people who were good at feedback, people who were good at change, they knew the process of how you built a relationship with somebody. They didn't expect to hire somebody or ask somebody and get an instant result. They knew that hiring a PA or working with somebody, a graphic designer or anybody, was a process. So you would give them your what you wanted, they would listen, and there'd be this exchange of questions, listening, feedback, until you got an understanding of what was required, who was going to do what, and you have a go at doing it, get some feedback. It wouldn't necessarily be perfect first time, but over time, you would build that relationship up and that ability to work in partnership with each other. And so we can only do more of what we love and learn to love what we do if we can understand the benefit of a process, that things are not instant. Now, they might happen quite quickly, but they also may well take more time than we'd expect them to. But learning to understand, first and foremost, what's your process for doing something, but understanding what's your process for working in collaboration with other people, learning in collaboration with other people, living in collaboration with other people. When you know how you do that, what's the first thing that needs to happen? I haven't yet come across somebody who the only way that you can work in partnership with other people is to know yourself. And so the process is all about really understanding, what do you need to work, learn and live at your best independently on your own, and what do you need to work, learn and live at your best collaboratively with other people. If you don't know that about yourself, you don't know how to set yourself up for success, then your partnerships are less likely to work successfully. And the process that you have to go through to get you from where you are now to where you want to be will always feel disjointed and like it's not giving you the right kind of feedback, because you don't understand that actually it not being right straight away is part of the process. It's an iterative thing that you're going to build up as you go from one place to the other. So what I'd love to know, if someone's just joined me, please do say hello on the comments and leave me your name. That'd be great to know who you are. We're talking about the second principle of motivated action is all about process. And in a very simple level, we're talking about understanding where you are now to where you want to be, and then using coaching questions to map out what happens in between. And just to summarize, if your timelines are very much in the moment, you might say, so this is where I am now, then what happens? Or what's the first thing that needs to happen? If you're someone that's more reflective, you might find it easier if you start with the end in mind. So you talk about where you want to be and go, what happens just before that? Either way, you get a post-it note for that process. But over time, what I've discovered is if you want to do more of what you love and you want to learn to love what you have to do, you also need to understand your process for learning at your best independently and learning at your best collaboratively with somebody else. If you don't understand what you need to learn at your best, when it comes to learning new things, you often have to have a teacher, or you need to have someone you're going to delegate stuff to. So you're going to be the person that's teaching somebody else what you want to have done. And we cannot delegate and ask for help if we don't have understanding of our own process for learning something new independently and learning collaboratively with other people. And those people that are most successful after 30 years of work with people were, if they didn't know how to do something, they were really confident in their ability to learn new things. They were confident in their ability to source the right teacher for them and to go through the process of learning something new if they needed to. And so if you get stuck and you don't know what the next step is, then you can either coach yourself or be coached to map out the process, which you might find that you actually know far more than you realize you do, or you're going to need to be coached to develop your skills to be able to learn at your best in order to be better resourced to find yourself the right teacher for you right now. So I hope today's video has been of use to you. I look forward to hearing from you during the week, but please put your comments below. And if you haven't already done so, please follow the page or subscribe to the YouTube channel. Speak to you next Monday.